big legal movements happening in Washington, D.C. today. Dr. Corsi, how are you?
I'm good. Great to be with you. Looking forward to it, Jason, and thank you.
It's lovely to see you, Doctor. And today is our first show being broadcast by fiber optic. I've been making a lot of changes here at the studio to try first to improve the image quality. We're broadcasting to our viewers right now at full 1080p. And of course, the fiber optic connection should hopefully make our interactivity quite a bit better. Oddly, all these wonderful preparations, yet I don't seem to see us online right now.
No, we're not.
That's very
We are
strange.
not.
Hmm.
I don't see it either. That's all right. You can post it later.
I don't know why
I'm
that's
just going
happening,
to,
Dr. Corsi.
I don't, shall I end it? I'll
No,
probably end
no.
it.
Let's,
Just,
wow,
just let it
that's
go.
so strange
I
because
know we've got the ghosts here of the internet, which just seem to not quite leave us alone. So, we're just going to keep going.
it's almost like a joke,
And
Dr. Corsi, because I've been working all night to get this stuff working better. I've got the sound dialed in. I mean, we're on the internet. Everything is set. I don't understand why that would happen, but we'll keep going. We'll be starting in, well, I don't know when people will see this, but in 30 minutes, we'll be starting on patreon.com/Jerome Corsi and patreon.com/Crowdsource the Truth. So, Doctor, what are we going to be discussing today when we make our way over to Patreon?
Well, I think we got several things. The main news today was the sentencing of Roger Stone, and I was, first of all, I get some abuse on the Roger Stone because people are saying, "Why didn't I testify and save Roger Stone?" Well, you can't just go testify in a trial. I mean, I was not called, and there was really nothing in terms of what was presented at the trial that had to do with me. I mean, a couple of emails, I believe, were entered by the prosecution into the trial that were emails Roger sent to me, but certainly nothing at the grand jury that I testified about, nothing even that I wrote in Silent No More was used. The government did not use my testimony at all to convict Roger Stone. So people who are just saying, why didn't I do something to prevent this? I just really don't understand how the law works. There was nothing I could do to have saved or to have prevented Roger Stone. Roger himself, I think, by testifying to the House Intelligence Committee, if he had taken the fifth, he probably would have saved himself from this entire episode. But he testified, and I think it was largely one of these entrapment setups because the FBI had everything on. They had a book 8 or 10 inches thick on me when Mueller investigated, and I had this voluntary interrogation for 40 hours and 6 sessions, which was in September and October 2018. So this was, nothing I could do. And I also have posted today a petition up on the website of the White House, which is to pardon all those indicted, convicted, or pleading guilty in the Mueller investigation. And I'm basically saying that President Trump ought to grant a full and unconditional pardon to all those U.S. citizens indicted and convicted, or who have otherwise been indicted, convicted, or pled guilty to charges brought by the special counselor's office in this Russian collusion witch hunt investigation. The list would include Paul Manafort, Rick Gates, Lieutenant Michael Flynn, Roger Stone, George Papadopoulos, and Michael Cohen. The only reason any of these individuals came under criminal investigation was that they chose to work on the 2016 presidential campaign of Donald Trump. And I think that I'm outraged. I think the American people should be outraged that this is unequal treatment. I mean, here you get Roger Stone convicted of 3 years, 40 months in prison for lying to Congress. What about James Clapper, DNI head, who asked under oath before Congress if the National Security Agency was doing any electronic surveillance on U.S. citizens, and said not wittingly. Well, that means yes. And giving the impression that it's no is a lie. How about James Brennan? How about James Comey? How about McCabe, where the Horowitz report 4 times said he had lied under oath and recommended him for indictment, yet the Department of Justice under Barr does nothing. I think it's outrageous. This is, again, unequal justice. If you're deep state, if you're Hillary Clinton or Obama, if you're leftist, if you believe in the globalists and George Soros, you skate. Nothing to do is wrong. Everything is okay. Take a hammer, start smashing your computer hard disks. Don't worry about it, Hillary. You didn't intend to break national security laws. It's okay. Can we help you break those disks? It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Jason?
Well, it's really,
yeah,
it's beyond ridiculous,
I'm outraged
Doctor.
Today.
You should be outraged because it's beyond ridiculous. And we talk about it in this way because we're kind of like going easy on them. But the fact of the matter is, this is a perversion of our justice system. Putting aside any personal feelings, any differences that might exist with Roger Stone, it is outrageous that he'd be, 4 years in jail is a long time. And Roger Stone is kind of close to your age, right? How much, looking at the percentage of his remaining life?
I'm a few years older than Roger, but Roger is, I believe, 67 years old. And the point is, no one should have to lose time in their life in a political prosecution that was conducted by a weaponized group of highly motivated, Democratic, hate Trump partisans. And that's what the Mueller witch hunt was. And I can attest to that. I wrote a book about it, Silent No More. I experienced it firsthand. And, this is not justice in America. I'm so outraged. Part of what this is about is I think the Trump counterattack has started. I think Trump is now, I said, this would have 3 phases, the whole deal all through the first administration of Donald Trump. I believe he'll be reelected at this point. But the first I predicted when I wrote Killing the Deep State, and I wrote that in 2017, that Mueller would fail. Well, Mueller on March 2019 reported that there was no collusion, and he found no evidence that could recommend prosecution for obstruction of justice. So Mueller failed. Then I predicted that the next phase would be the Trump counterattack. Well, after the Ukraine gate, Schiff, Nadler, Pelosi didn't give up. They decided they would still try to impeach Donald Trump. Well, that failed. Now, both of those are hoaxes. And I think Trump is counterattacking. And he's found legitimately, he wants to know how these bogus investigations got started, these politically motivated. And I've written a coup d'etat. By the way, I got my first copy.
Oh, look at that. Nice.
There it is. It's going to be out there in March. And I'm pretty pleased. I think it's the most important book I've ever written. Because, this is the third phase. By election day, the American people are going to realize this is a coup d'etat. But I've been asking several important questions, and I think these are the questions I want to focus on today in this short broadcast introducing it, but certainly in the full broadcast when we get into it. And the very first question is, is Barr, Attorney General Barr, can he control the Department of Justice?
Right.
And I'm beginning to doubt that he can. I'm beginning to side with Donald Trump, who's calling for Barr to clean house at the Department of Justice. And I think this feud where Barr is saying, I can't do my job, Mr. President, if you tweet, I'm sorry, President Trump is the head of the justice system in America, and he has a right to demand that this political weaponized justice system and all the people, and it's not just the top, all these thousands of people hired legacy into the Department of Justice and the FBI be gotten rid of, because the entire culture there is politically poisoned against Christians and conservatives. My second question today is, will Trump pardon Roger Stone? And I think, yes, it's likely to happen. I'm not sure. The way the sentence was given today, this Judge Berman Jackson is another. I was before her with my case when I've sued Mueller. She would not let us have discovery because we couldn't prove that Mueller had done illegal electronic surveillance against me. That was the point of the suit. So
Well,
we've
right.
taken that to the Court of Appeals and the U.S. Court of Appeals. She is absolutely a partisan, bitter old woman. I mean, she's mean. She is biased. She will be happy to get a jury impaneled that hates Trump and not question them hard. Well, today at the sentencing, Roger Stone was not taken into custody. He's out on a bond and await a hearing and a decision by the judge as to whether or not there should be a new trial. I'm very doubtful she'll grant a new trial, but I think she'll be reversed on appeal.
So is that because of this whole issue with one of the jurors was biased?
Yes. Yes. It surfaced that the juror was biased, tweeting actually during the trial about hate Trump and hiding this from the court, hiding it when she was questioned by the judge about being on the jury, saying that she could do an unbiased job. Well, it's obvious she couldn't. She was there to make sure that Stone was indicted and, convicted. It's disgraceful. The third question I'm asking today is, does Bloomberg have a chance as a Democrat? And watching last night's debate, I'd say no, none at all.
No.
I think he's already finished. But
Yeah,
the Democratic Party,
him.
we are watching the suicide of the Democratic Party as they evolve into a Democrat Socialist Party. And I think the American people are beginning to catch on that you can't buy your way into the Democratic nomination. And Bloomberg, quite frankly, just did a miserable job yesterday. He is really unprepared. The presidential level of politics, if someone has not been there, if you haven't experienced it, most people are not prepared to understand the pressures, the intensity. This is a whole new level of scrutiny that most human beings will never encounter in their lifetimes. And it's unlike anything. So, Elizabeth Warren, who's got more experience at it than Bloomberg, I think devastated his chances when she went after these Me Too issues, and Bloomberg would not say how many different complaints had been settled when he was mayor, or what specifically he did other than say tell a few jokes badly
right.
that were
the audience grown.
He's setting himself up for another Kavanaugh experience.
Yeah.
And to go through this with wondering which is going to be the next accuser of Bloomberg on some sexual impropriety that's going to come forward, or if he's going to pick Hillary as his running mate and say we get to litigate all over again Benghazi and the Clinton Foundation scandals and the email. Hillary is a huge liability, and Bloomberg now has made himself into a liability.
Do you think Hillary will? I agree with you, Doctor. He was just terrible. He just seemed mean. They asked him about these non-disclosure agreements, and he just jealously defended somebody's right to have a non-disclosure agreement. It just it made Joe Biden look good, which is not not a good thing.
This whole field. Elizabeth Warren looks like the meanest school teacher you ever had in your life.
Yeah.
She brings back nightmares at grade school, sitting there having to watch the clock all day long, being bored out of my mind, and this teacher screaming at the kids. I'm about ready to say, she's a nightmare vision to me.
Yeah.
And then Bloomberg, who will never get the black vote. I'm sorry, he's never going to get the black vote with the already what has been produced in the opposition research on the stop and frisk. And they're just starting into deconstructing Bloomberg as mayor. He'll never be a candidate because he's got too much baggage. And he does not know how to field an attack. He's used to being, the rich billionaire owner that no one would dare criticize in business. Right. And as mayor, he was, again, everybody bowed down to him as mayor. And, this, I think, is a whole new league that Bloomberg is not equipped to play in. Then you get Klobuchar, and Buttigieg in their own little personal, mocking one another. And I think Klobuchar had the winning line when she pointed out that Buttigieg is just a slick guy with a lot of PowerPoint, presentation talking points that he's gotten to learn. But he's, as mayor of Indiana, this Gary, Indiana, or wherever it was, he's
South
certainly
Bend.
not qualified to be president of the United States.
No.
And then in the background, you got John Kerry talking about how he shouldn't be held against, the Logan Act, and how it's perfectly fine for him to be talking to Iran. And meanwhile, you find out that, it was released in the Gateway Pundit today that Devin Nunes had been found guilty. He is the former roommate of Kerry's stepson,
Really?
who was plugged into Hunter Biden's Burisma adventure in Ukraine, and into the company, the investment company that went to China and got all these millions of dollars. So, and he was found guilty in this case, and then the guilty plea was dismissed. So again, if you're related to Kerry, or you're related to Hillary, or any of these Democrats and any of these communist socialists, you'll be fine. Justice system is not interested. Nothing to see here.
Now,
but if you're Roger Stone and you joke with Credico about, the games these two played with each other, and they're both have these personalities which are, to be taken seriously. And Credico testified he didn't take Roger seriously as a threat. But yet Amy Berman Jackson, she knew it was a threat, and she can put Roger in prison for 40 months. I mean, it's outrageous. I don't think the American people are ready to continue tolerating it. That's why I think Barr's got a choice. Barr has got a choice that he can either step up and clean house in the Department of Justice, or my second option here, which is sometimes my first. In other words, I think the Justice Department has been politically corrupt since J. Edgar Hoover was collecting blackmail files and, wearing his little dress at night with Clyde Tolson, his boyfriend. Well, they went out to the track for the mob in California, lost money betting on the races, and then came back, and J. Edgar Hoover said, there is no organized crime in America. I mean, and then the Church Committee in the 70s saying, again, the FBI was out there doing this ComIntel Pro, where they were looking at protest groups and Martin Luther King. Everybody's looking at Martin Luther King, trying to get dirt on Martin Luther King. Well, look, if we've got a political FBI by nature, a political justice system in the federal level, then let's move the entire Justice Department out to Death Valley, where they all have to quit, or just simply close it down, shut it down and tear down the building and put salt on that ground so nothing's able to grow there for the next 100 years. I mean, I think the whole system is completely corrupt, and I don't know that anybody can fix it. But I know Barr's job is to quit bellyaching about Trump's emails or tweets, and to get in there. Look at, under Barr, he put his number one guy, Tim Shea, his assistant, to be U.S. attorney in Washington. I thought, okay, that's great. This guy is going to ride herd over the Stone and the Flynn prosecutors. No, they didn't do that. No. Shea let the Stone prosecutors say they wanted 9 years in prison, and let them go forward with that. And Barr had to stop them. But Barr has not dismissed the Flynn case. Now he sent in this U.S. attorney from Missouri, Jensen, to go in and look and see. But, this doesn't impress me. No. Sessions had U.S. attorney Huber from Utah to look at crimes in the first Russian collusion investigation, prior even to Mueller, but certainly coincident with Mueller. Yeah. And Huber did nothing.
Well, Dr. Corsi, these Comey. Guys are
There's nothing to see here.
They're all lawyers, so they're very used to getting paid by the hour. They don't want anything to happen too quickly. But speaking of time,
they're deep state. The problem with the bureaucracy is that the bureaucracy protects itself. And you come in there and they say, oh, well, Mr. Barr, we're glad you're Attorney General. But we've got these cases and we got all this work going on. And you don't want to disrupt this because we are in process. And he says, well, okay, you boys continue. You men and women over there. Well, as soon as you give in like that, you're co-opted. I mean, he's got to come into, I've said, got to come into the Department of Justice like Patton took over the Army, U.S. Army in Africa, North Africa, in World War II after the disaster of the Kasserine Pass. And you got to start, court-martialing people and giving them fines because their uniforms aren't in shape, and penalizing them because they don't show up for meals on time. I'm sorry, the mess hall is closed. What do you mean?
Right.
It was always open. No, it's closed. This is not the Department of Justice. This is the totalitarian state's way of punishing political enemies and silencing Roger Stone, just like they tried to silence me, making sure I had no income, threatened that I would go to prison for the rest of my life unless I signed this plea deal. And then, they put me in front. The prosecutor said the same thing to me they said to Roger Stone. Same guy, Zelensky, that whole team. Let my lawyers know I would be tried for obstruction of justice in front of a jury in D.C. that would hate me. I would get a sentence for 35 years. They'd go for the maximum, and I'd never get out of prison until I died. That's what they told me. Or just sign this plea deal. Well, I wouldn't sign the plea deal because I wouldn't stand before God and a judge and plead to a crime I hadn't committed. And my wife, Monica, woke up, and this was in Thanksgiving 2018, and she said, I'd rather visit you in prison the rest of your life than have you not be the man I married. And I decided to tell him to take a hike.
And
but
Doctor, I think that was a
and
fantastic thing for you to do. And it's interesting to see how these different cases have played out. I'm glad that you avoided the fate that Roger Stone is now facing. But I'm sorry to cut you off, Doctor. We need to make our transition here over to patreon.com/Jerome Corsi, patreon.com/Crowdsource the Truth, and of course, Subscribestar. So we'll stop here, and I just want to make sure everything is okay with the streaming software. And we'll be back on in just a few minutes on Patreon and Subscribestar. Thanks for watching, everybody.